It is very different from the US, actually. First thing you'll notice about life in Portugal is that you will almost never see a house. They don't have them. Everybody lives in apartments. You have to kind of go out into the country to find houses. So, it's interesting. The people are very closed. Even though they live 10 feet from each other, they do not know their neighbors. They just don't talk to each other that much. So it's kind of that way. As far as food and groceries and things, everything is very expensive in Portugal. It'll cost quite a bit of money. Fortunately, they'll give you quite a bit of money to buy your groceries, so you're never going to starve. But the government taxes food a lot. So you probably pay like a 25% tax on everything that you buy. So it's quite a bit. It's very expensive. The good thing, though, is they do have some things that are very cheap, like bread. The people in Portugal actually buy their bread every day because they bake it fresh in the stores. Almost nobody buys loaves. And the bread is so good. I should have mentioned that with food. The bread is so good. I really, really miss the Portuguese bread. It's fantastic. I would suggest stopping by there during your lunch break and buying your bread fresh. It's so, so good. Also, they have pastries. Because I think that's the English word. But all kinds of just baked goods and then there's a pastry shop on like every corner. They're all over the place. And they're so, so good. Buy a lot of pastries. You will love them. They're delicious. Yeah, and everybody eats them. Portugal is really funny as far as its economy goes and what people do for work. Because I don't know why, like they've got an ocean on 3 sides, yet you almost never meet a fisherman, and like there aren't a whole lot of farmers running around. But for some reason, everybody, like tons of people want to cut hair. There's like a hair cutting place on every street. And then pastry shops, like I said, there's one on every corner. I don't honestly know how they all stay in business because there's so many, but they do, and it's cool. Yeah, so lots of people will be working in those. Something funny that you'll find as far as, although you'll almost never actually talk to them in their homes or anything, but there are a lot of Chinese people in Portugal, but they're all working all the time. So like you'll meet them because you'll go into the Chinese stores. I guess China like bought a ton of Portugal's debt and then forgave them, and in exchange, Chinese people don't pay taxes in Portugal for their business. So a lot of Chinese people are there, and they opened up stores, and the stuff there is just really cheap. You'll probably buy a lot of stuff in Chinese stores. They have good ties, so you'll probably buy some sweet little Chinese store ties. They're like €1. You just buy a whole bunch of them. They're awesome. But yeah, so there are a lot of Chinese people there, but you just never teach them because they don't speak Portuguese that great, and they're always working. Even when you do contact one, they'll tell you they work from like 6 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night and take a couple dinner breaks. Like all they do is work, but they're really nice people. They really are. So you will find Chinese stores are all over the place. They're really cheap. You'll find Portuguese people that try to imitate Chinese stores, which is stores that just sell everything, like randomly. You'll walk into a Chinese store or one of those Portuguese stores, and there's like this knick-knack section, and then randomly there's like an electric guitar, and then laundry soap, and then, then there's the ties or whatever. Like anything your heart could desire is for sale in a Chinese store somewhere, and so you just wander through, and it's just there, which is pretty cool. So every once in a while you'll find Portuguese people will open those up and try to run them, but they always go out of business because they have to pay taxes, and so they charge more. The biggest industry in Portugal is wine, so you'll have to get used to that. Wine there actually is cheaper than water, so there's a lot of drunks running around. It's like the low quality wine that they skim off the top before they sell their like $1 million bottles to people, but there's a lot of homeless drunk people that live off the government and drink a lot of wine. So you'll meet them all the time. They're very interesting people. Their second leading industry is cork. which they use to stop their wine bottles. But they are the world's #1 producer of cork, which is cool. So you can buy like cork souvenirs. Just kind of neat, I guess. Oh, public transport is really good in Portugal, in all of Europe for that matter. You can probably get just about anywhere on the bus, or there's trains, which I think is awesome. Trains are just a lot of fun. Yeah, so you can get anywhere in the country within about 10 hours, you know, by train or bus or whatever. There are also taxis, though they're really expensive, but sometimes you'll use them. Just depends. Most areas you'll get a bus pass, but a lot of times they won't go where you want them to go. I spent most of my mission just walking to get places. There are no bikes because all of the streets are cobblestone. Like, they don't have concrete there. I actually came during my mission to really miss concrete and grass because nobody has a lawn and there are no sidewalks that are paved with anything besides just rocks. It's kind of funny, you'll see people working on them. They just have these little square rocks, they're about that big, and they just stick them together and shove mud in between them, and those are what their sidewalks are made of. But they're really bad for bikes, and so nobody is allowed to bike in Europe because the bikes break too often. So, or at least in Portugal. I don't know other European missions, but that's what they told us. So we can't have bikes. Yeah, for the most part, you'll just be walking, so buy really good shoes. Especially when it rains all winter, you'll want really good shoes.